One of my favorite arcade games of all time was Snow Bros. I remember playing this game all the time on the single arcade machine at my local 7-Eleven back in the early 90s. Remember those days? Arcade machines randomly dispersed throughout liquor stores, convenience stores, laundromats, restaurants, even grocery stores. Those were the fucking days, man. Grab a big bite hot dog, a big gulp, some 5-cent candies, hang out at 7-Eleven for an hour or two playing some arcade games, right? Those days are long gone. But of course, we can emulate, most of those arcade games from the early 90s on cheap single board computers, our PCs, our cell phones, most, other devices out there, maybe even your microwave, But back then, in the 90s, we wanted those experiences at home, and it just wasn't possible unless you got the ports on home consoles. Now, the NES had some decent ports of arcade games, in my opinion. I think some may have been just as good, if not better, than the arcade versions, but it really wasn't until the 16-bit era when we started getting near arcade-perfect ports of games. So, Snow Bros, the home ports, were they any good? I remember getting the NES version back then and falling in love with it, but still having a strong desire to play the arcade version. It was good, but it was no replacement. You had an intro sequence explaining the story that I only ever watched recently during the recording of this video, never watched it entirely. Even though I owned the game back then, I just couldn't give a shit why I was a snowman or what the point of it all was. It was just simple damn fun. I didn't want to wait to get into it. So the NES version, it does closely mimic the arcade, version of the game with its 50 stages. Progressively gets more challenging, and I do think it gets more fun as you progress throughout the game. Just like the arcade game, just not as nice looking or as smooth, but still pretty good. Now, in all versions of the game, you can gain power-ups, increasing your speed, range, and size of projectile. While playing two players, I think it was kind of fun trying to jack all the power-ups, pissing off player two. Kind of like grabbing all the pizzas in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game when you didn't need it. Screw it, it's all mine, dude. We also got a junior version of the game on the original Game Boy. This one's interesting. Single player only, less enemies, boss duos are now single enemies. This port, it's just damn sluggish and initially appeared to be less of a game versus the other versions, but I still find it mildly fun, and it does have 10 extra stages over the NES version. Just not my preferred way to play. And then comes the prized fighter in the home ports. One that I feel surpasses the other two and also quite possibly surpasses the arcade version. Genesis does arcade ports with the best of them. Snow Bros on the Mega Drive. Yeah, never released in the United States of America. I did buy an import copy in the early 2000s for a reasonable price, but just like the other, versions of the game on home consoles, the demand is going up, prices are increasing. Freaking ridiculous. Just emulate these games, damn it. So, the Genesis version. I think this one is the version that's closest to looking and running like the original arcade version. Plus, it does have a little bit of a twist at the end. Having you, spoiler alert. Oh my God. Spoiler alert. It has that little twist of having you play as the princesses for another 20 stages at the end of the game. So I think there's fun to be had on any of these home ports, but for sure the Genesis version did it best. It's a shame there was no Super Nintendo port. Guess it is what it is. Now, there was a couple arcade sequels that just didn't capture the magic of the original, and they're really booty in my opinion. I can't stand those freaking games. My God, I stick to the original. That is it. There's also an Amiga port that was never released, but there was a ROM dump of it some years ago. I've watched some footage of it. Looks all right, but I'm not an Amiga person. Growing up in the States, we had Atari, Nintendo, Sega. I mean, that's what I remember. I know we had other things, but that's what I played. And those were the ports that, I wanted to take a look at and kind of revisit, the magic of going to the arcades back in the day, also known as 7-Eleven, for me anyway. It was a magical time, man. Back in the 90s, playing these games in the arcade, dumping quarters, finding quarters in the newspaper machines, the payphones, and, going buying some nickel candies like Bazooka Joes and, Jolly Ranchers and stuff. Remember those flat Jolly Ranchers? Holy crap, dude. I remember they're like, there was a lot of candies. They were like a nickel or 10 cents or something. They had them on the bottom shelf of 7-Eleven. So of course all the school kids would be stealing that shit, putting them into their socks. But you know, it is what it is. Just brings back fond memories. I remember going to the 7-Eleven playing this game all the time, and then they rotated it out, put something else in there. I think when Street Fighter 2 started, you know, getting really big, that was what, you know, every single one of these places had was Street Fighter 2. Like, forget everything else. If they had one arcade machine, that's all the space they had. They got rid of everything, and Street Fighter 2 was it. Man, I miss the 80s and 90s. So it's just fun reminiscing about, you know, back in the day playing these games and these makeshift arcades and whatnot. Let me know down below in the comments, did you guys play this game, Snow Bros, in the arcade? Did you guys have arcade machines in convenience stores, liquor stores, all over the place? Let me know. Really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Just a lot of fun reminiscing on this stuff. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace out, and bye-bye.